Hello, my beautiful friends, my fellow seekers. I am really excited to chat about this Gemini full moon happening on December 18th and 19th. This full moon is our final one of 2021. How are we all doing out there? It's been a potent year. The learning has been real, and I think we all can agree on that. However, that learning has been coming in for you. I know for me, this has been one of the deepest, most profound years of my life yet. And isn't that just the way life just keeps getting deeper and more profound as you move through a lifetime? But at any rate, this full moon is really a beautiful symbolic place to close out 2021. It is our last full moon of 2021, but it's also situated around a lot of endings and beginnings and a lot of this understanding that we are closing out one learning cycle and beginning another one. And in that way, it's really this kind of doorway between two worlds. And it's a really wonderful place to just kind of let yourself be in that doorway, right? Not to be in a rush to hold on to the past, nor to be in a rush to feel that you need to figure out all of 2022 and already have all your vision boards done. It holds this really important space that I think it's important we take around this time, around the solstice, around this full moon, that allows us to just be where we are in this doorway, where we don't know all the elements that are going to come into play in 2022. We may not know all the magic that is on its way to us. We may also not have finished grieving or processing 2021 or letting go of everything from what we have just learned over the last year or year and a half. And both of those things are totally okay. This full moon is really here to have us just sit in this doorway with the knowing that we are leaving behind one cycle and the knowing that we are slowly but gently opening up to the next one. And that is what's so important. You know, Gemini energy is all about storytelling. It's all about the fun and activity of creating those visions and those stories. And one of the best ways that we can activate Gemini energy in ourselves is to also just slow down enough to allow the truest story, the truest wishes and longings to surface. So we have to get quiet enough in order to hear it. And so this full moon is about savoring the quiet of this doorway and really welcoming it in. So let me just contextualize this full moon for you because it is so symbolically cool the way that it is situated. It's happening just a few days before the solstice. So we're already kind of in this ruminative, reflective season of the year where we're getting super close to a new calendar year, but also reflecting on our relationship with light and transformation. This full moon is also our first full moon since eclipse season. We've just had 2 eclipses before this full moon, and this full moon is often where we are going to be incorporating and understanding our growth cycle during eclipse season. Often we don't understand everything that elapsed until we look back and we're at the next moon cycle. So this moon is also a kind of closeout of eclipse season this year. This is also our last full moon in Gemini with the North Node in Gemini. The North Node is going to be moving on to Taurus in January. And so we're also reflecting on what we have learned while the North Node has been in Gemini, which has been happening for about a year and a half. So this is also a great time to just kind of take the wide angle lens of everything you have learned and explored the last year and a half and really find any piece you need to find with that learning process. You know, this is not a moon to go through all the ways that we failed, all the ways that we didn't live up to the goals list or the way we wanted to be Zen through trying and intense cultural times. And this is a time more to embrace how we have navigated that journey and tell a story that is much more respectful of ourselves and the journey that we did have, whether that was to do a lot of things or to rest more or whatever it was for you. There's a lot of different ways we all work through this world. We're all so different in the way that we show up here. So it's all about honoring that. But that's not the only context, right? We also have this full moon happening the day Venus begins her retrograde in Capricorn for 6 weeks. And the day that Chiron ends his retrograde in Aries after 5 months. So this full moon's also holding court for a really big transformative phase. Venus retrograde in Capricorn, I get a lot deeper on it on my Patreon, and I have a short video out about it as well here that you can watch, is a time of rebirth and reassessment and spiritual realignment. So we are about to begin a journey through that work with Venus that's going to be gorgeous. So this full moon's also ushering in a new energetic era. That way, this is our last full moon of 2021. The next time we have a full moon, we're going to be in 2022. And a lot of things are going to have shifted and feel very different at that time. So this is really a doorway moment. Finally, this full moon is trining Jupiter in Aquarius. And I just love this. Anytime Jupiter is involved, we are in a place of expanded vision. You know, we often talk about Jupiter in terms of like whatever it touches grows, right? Which can be a double-edged sword. Sometimes things expand that we're like, I didn't really want more of that. But the way that I really like to think about Jupiterian energy is to zoom out, right? Look at the big picture. Zoom out and let all the details, the whys and the hows and the scheduling and the timing of it all, the winds, get kind of fuzzy and soft, and look at the larger energetic waves in you, the larger dreams and visions you have. That's what this Jupiter trine is really asking us to do here. Because Gemini full moon, this is going to be about the details, the storytelling, the way we talk to ourselves, the way we tell our stories, the way that we talk about ourselves and our journey, and the way that we mythologize and talk about the world that we live in and how we move through it. So this is a moon that you can review kind of how you talk about your journey and how you're working with it. But with this trine, what it's asking us to do too is like loosen up a little bit on feeling like we have to control the narrative so much and just be a little softer and more open to who we may be becoming and what we may be releasing and what we may also not without even knowing be welcoming in. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Sometimes, you know, it can be a little scary. It's like, oh, I'm welcoming in a whole bunch of trouble for myself. What I mean is something that I've talked about so many times, and I actually haven't talked about it for a while, but it's a concept that I was working with a few years ago called the unimaginable horizon, which for me is that place where we can't even fathom the friendships, the joyful little moments we're going to have, the creative ideas we're going to have, the love we're going to have, the people we're going to get connected to, the communities we're going to get connected to, the artwork and the ideas that are going to come out of us. We can't even fathom it from right here when we're sitting doing the work with this Gemini full moon, right? Like we can come up with some of the ideas, but there's so many parts of that we just our minds aren't able to put all the puzzle pieces together. And I find this to be one of the most magical places to sit in and just allow that joy of realizing that I'm going to have some beautiful friendships in the coming years. I'm going to have some beautiful moments, you know, just sitting over the dinner table with my husband that I can't even fathom yet, that we haven't even had yet. Just the art that I'm going to paint, right? That I haven't even come up with the idea yet, but I know that I will this coming year. That's the kind of energy that this full moon really brings up for me. And especially with that Jupiterian influence of the trine working with the full moon. This is also, I just want to say this visual came up for me. And I'm going to start shuffling the cards because we got to have our card for this conversation. The visual that came up for me when I was sitting and meditating and working with this full moon was like, it feels like when you have a blank canvas or a blank sheet of paper or freshly resurfaced ice, right? It's just been in an ice skating rink. A fresh field of snow, right? When nobody's walked on it. A card fell. And it is the Chariot. I love it. Oh my God, I love this card so much. It's one of my favorites. It kept bringing these visuals of these fresh, clear spaces where so much is going to happen and morph and change on them. And yet we don't know what that is. And maybe it's a little intimidating to begin, but that's where I want to just like take a moment to breathe, because we don't need to begin. We don't need to tear into that canvas and cover it in a piece of art and be really good at it, or have the vision board done, or go on the ice and do a perfect routine. That's not what this full moon is asking from us. It's about just savoring that there is this beautiful blank canvas there for us, and it's holding us, and it will be filled with color and light and play and exploration. And we don't need to micromanage it, control it, own it, get it all done before 2022 hits. We can just appreciate being in that doorway, looking at that blank canvas, allowing the feeling of that openness of what is possible next to alight in us and to come to life in us. That is what this full moon is all about. I think it's so interesting the Chariot came out. This is a very visionary energy. Often what I say about the Chariot is that this is a card that chariots are not known for being about lots of winds and turns. They're kind of poorly constructed vehicles that the challenge of them, and why chariot races were so challenging, is because they have these two wheels and they're very good at going straight ahead, charging ahead, and the Chariot is that visionary thing of just like keeping your eye on the horizon. This is a card also associated with commitment and balance and loyalty, and like a deepening of that commitment to moving forward on something. So it's really interesting it's coming out here, because for me, the Chariot reminds us to come back to the simple truths that we know are on our path. There's a lot of questions we probably all have about 2022. What's going to happen? Are things going to get better? Is this going to be the year that something clicks for me? We have a lot of questions about how and when it's all going to transpire. And a lot of those, we just need to put those down for this full moon. We don't need to have all those figured out. But what I will say with the Chariot coming through, a message coming through with the Chariot, is this. There are certain things that are very true and real for your heart. And you may even get really strong hits of information about those specific crystal clear things. Answers coming in, knowing coming in, a sense of something clicking into place. And those things are going to be very specific. They're going to be very individual. They're going to be very much tied to each of us and what we have with that deep knowing. But the Chariot is about a deep knowing and a deep commitment and a deep clarity that sets us on that path. The Chariot's associated with Cancer. And Cancer is one of my favorite energies in the world. I love a cardinal water sign, let me tell you, because it combines the adventurous getting in there and starting something energy of cardinal energy with the intuitive knowing of water. And while this full moon is very much about air and storytelling and ideas flowing through and expanding our view via our intellectual mind, there's also a sense of deep intuitive knowing with this full moon about what is coming for us. And for me, the Chariot is such a breakthrough energy. And that's what I'm saying. It just feels like this doorway, like we're just sitting in this doorway, and it's like we can get glimpses of the little sets and scenarios that we may be coming toward us in 2022. We can look through the doorway and see them. We haven't quite stepped through the doorway. We still have a foot over here in 2021, sorting through that, exploring that, incorporating that, processing that. But we're also starting to get these hits of clear information. And I find there's something so cool about being in these doorway moments. It's like time collapses and we're outside of this linear version of ourselves. And we remember that this interesting, interactive, creative process of existing. And it's a reminder that we don't always have to be in the trenches getting our to-do lists done. We can sometimes just take a step and just really notice and look around. I would highly recommend during this full moon finding some meditative practices, whatever that is for you. If it's just a straight up sitting and meditating, if it's a walk, if it's painting, get into that state where the wisdom just flows through you, because some really great information could be coming through for you. So we're going to be doing the in-depth activation of this over on my Patreon. We're also going deep on Venus retrograde, working on the North Node changing in January, as well as covering Jupiter moving into Pisces later this month. So there's a lot that we're going to be doing over there that I can't get all addressed here. I would love to see you there if you are interested in getting some deeper guidance about this potent couple of months that we are working through right now. I'd also love it if you hung out with me here. So I'll leave all of my links and everything in the description box. Also, yes, scammers are still out there. We're still living in an age on Instagram where all the healers, all the readers, everybody, there's dupe accounts getting made all the time. So there's just one me. I will leave my handle below so you know it's me. And that's what I gotta say about that. So I'll leave all my info, where to find me, on the internet below. Have a gorgeous full moon in Gemini. I will see you very soon for our next chat, and have a beautiful solstice as well. See you soon.